Good afternoon or lunchtime, Facebook and YouTube. I'm simulcasting right now. So if I'm looking here and there and here and there, that's why. My name is Emunah Yisrael, Solonomics 101 Lev Project. This seems like it's going to be a series of installments because sometimes our attention spans are not that long. And so if we break it up into fragments and segments, it could help us to absorb the information. Now, Facebook may be bugging out because I am on or inside the house. And so I'm going to try my best with this thing here. Trying to reconnect. It gives problems, but I need to be close to where I don't do wireless. So in the house. So this is why we experience these issues here. So hopefully they'll be back with you. Sorry about that, Facebook. So basically, there's a lot of trauma, issues surrounding birth of a nation, the birth of a nation. Has anybody seen it thus far? For those who may be on YouTube, which has no problem. If you have seen it, why or why not? If you haven't seen it, why or why not? If you care to share. Come on now, Facebook. You acting extra stank right now. You ain't even acting just a little bit stank. Like, come on now. Work with me. For those who are on Facebook and it may not be coming through clear enough for you. Okay, it just went out again. Hold on one second. For those who may be on and it's not coming out clear and you want to hear the content because you already know I'm about to go in, just click the link. I can't do. So, what was I going to say? Click the link in the box on Facebook if you want to see it, because for some reason Facebook is going in and out, in and out. So basically the name of this one is Sista, Please Stay on Topic, the Birth of a Nation Controversy. And once again, I'm gonna have to talk about this in different pieces. Why I say Sister, please stay on topic. I try my best not to get into, I try to stay on the educational side. I may bust some jokes here and there, but I try my best to stay in the space of education, facts, so that people have the information and the material to make informed decisions and choices of which to form their opinions. When we get caught up in this hype, in this media frenzy and the hype, we lose the essence of what it is that we are really supposed to be discussing. And by the time we get around to actually discussing it, we've heard it so much, we've talked about the fluff so much, and we're so upset that we don't want to discuss the real issue. Now, this is the exact thing that is happening with Birth of a Nation. I went to see it. I did a review of how I felt experiencing the movie. I don't know what to say for Facebook. I don't know what to say because it keeps doing it. Hold on. And I put those links in the box. I wrote an article a few days ago. I put that link in the box. But today, based on what I'm seeing on social media, as well as a comment that I got, I said, you know what? All right, let's go fact checking. And some very, very interesting stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'll tell Facebook. Facebook, I'm gonna have to turn it off because it keeps going in and out. I'm gonna have to. The link is in the box if you want to watch it on YouTube. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's acting crazy. So anywho, as I was saying, we're going to go ahead and take a look at stay on topic, sisters, because the controversy is around sisters. I'm not going to see the movie because this, that, or as they would say, tarot, what's it not. I'm not going to see it because of X, Y, Z. Hey, shalom, Vector, what's going on? Shalom, sis. Yeah, sister Adayawa. Yeah, there's a lot of issues that is surrounding
because of X, Y, Z. And
Okay.
Shalom, Vector.
And so the issues are just an extension of deeper issues. But we cannot continue to fall for the shiny object in the room. Hey, look at the shiny object. Ooh, baby, don't cry. Look over here. Now, all of a sudden, you forgot what in the world this is about. And this is what's happening. And so I had to go do some fact checking. Okay, cool. And it's so much fact checking that we're going to have to start at the beginning. Now, again, for those who've joined us, we've been doing this Lev project. I mean, I told up on side for the Lev project because as we've been going along, that's why I like the books, because I like to highlight and go through. I've seen certain books that I have read on here and off that speaks about. So I've seen other accounts of the interaction or the after effects of Nat Turner's insurrection. However, when we're looking at it retrospectively, some 185 years later, we have a whole other host of problems that have been piled on top of this issue, this historical moment. And what we are doing now, that as opposed to taking it as an opportunity to intrigue the mind and want to go further and learn about it, we're taking it as an opportunity or a catalyst to talk about why I'm mad that Nat Parker has a white woman, or why I'm mad. Okay, those are other issues that are compounded because of the very same issue that he was insurrecting against, that no one is really talking about. What was the need for Nat Turner to want to cause an insurrection? What you're arguing about, what you're squabbling about, is that very thing. But that thing is remaining nameless as we argue about all rape charges. And it's not to negate someone's past. It is, however, to stay on topic. If you're talking about the birth of a nation, the story of Nat Turner, then talk about the birth of a nation, the story of Nat Turner. If you're talking about Nate Parker as an individual, then speak about Nate Parker as an individual. And this is why I said there's a level of hypocrisy. And then I'm going to share one of the things that I found. Like I said, this is going to be a series because there's more than one thing. You already know I'm going to be digging off in some stuff, and I found a few things. Okay. And it won't all be today, because as I'm reading, I'm sharing. So this was my last night's find. When or if you are expecting, and I'm going to do a little bit of what I think, and then I'm going to, if you're expecting a check, a commission check, Social Security, whatever you're expecting, do you care who delivers it to you? Are you up there like, oh, Mr. Mailman, can you tell me your past? Did you drink last night? Do you wear wife beaters when you go home? What color is your car? Mr. Mailman, no. All you do is some people wait at the mailbox for the mailman. Why? Because what the mailman is bringing is something that you desire. And when it is something that you desire, you don't care about the messenger. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. How many people have stopped the mailman to inquire about his personal life when you are waiting for that tax return check? How many people? Because guess what? The mailman is bringing something you want. The other day, Hurricane Matthew passed through. And I'm going to come to that, sister. I'm going to definitely come to that as my information is growing on the subject, and hopefully we will all grow collectively. For those who don't have just joined me, this is not I'm not, if you're new to the channel, you're not going to get hype. If you're new to the channel, it takes an attention span to move through this information. And I notice some people are like, well, just give it to me. Well, I didn't just get it. I had to go through a series of things in order to get it. And so this is one of the things that we suffer with is, and I'm not talking to you, sis, I'm just talking in general because I've gotten some wild comments. So if your attention span is short or you can't watch it at this time, you can earmark it, or you can just be intrigued and go do your own research. As long as we get the information, however we get it. So I say that to say, I forgot what I was saying now because I went off topic to talk about that. Oh, so basically my analogy is, however, if someone is speaking about something you don't want to hear, if they're bringing information that you want to reject internally, subconsciously, now you're going to find every reason in which to deflect from the message. When I want to hear the message, I don't care who's bringing it. When I don't want to hear the message, then now I'm going to tear down the messenger. And this is what I see happening here. For me, the message is about Nat Turner. The person who's giving you this message, the question is, was the message relayed correctly? So with that being said, I'm going to share my page here, and please excuse, I have like 50 million tabs open. That's how I get when I get in research mode. But I'm going to come into what I found, because as I was reading reports and back and forth and conversation, I found some references to two narratives of the Confessions of Nat Turner. Okay. And there's one that was written in 1831. And oh, I'm gonna put the link in the box when I'm done. And then there was one that was written in 1968. Funny that Nat Turner's movie, the movie Birth of a Nation, has the same thing, that it's named after another movie with a totally different spin. So the 1950 Birth of a Nation, and it's here on YouTube if you haven't seen it, is a Klans movie. The original name, they say, is Klans movie. I started to watch it. It was so hard. Months ago, I started to watch it, even before this. And I'm like, my goodness. But anyway, Birth of a Nation, or A Birth of a Nation, is named just in the same way that the Confessions of Nat Turner, there are actually two narratives floating around there. Now, this is the original narrative. And so this is what we're going to speak about first. As you can see, it's available on Digital Commons, educational materials, Libraries, University of Nebraska. I'm going to read this. It's going to take me about 50 minutes to an hour to read it. But I'm going to read it because after watching the movie, in my estimation, this was the basis of which the movie was narrated. Okay? So to answer Sister Adewa's question, in your opinion, did you find that he was able to tell the story? I won't say full context, and here's why. Because of the constraints, and I've heard him speak of it. They had money constraints, of which he fundraised to raise this, to make the film over the last 8 years, to actually be able to make the film. And then he said he had to shoot in 45 days. So can you tell a full conclusive story in that time of somebody's a whole incident? No. Can you give enough information that will hopefully spark the mind to want to go and do what I'm doing? Yes. And like the sister said, we're lazy. And we're slothful, and we think that everyone else should do all of the work for us. And if they don't do everything that we require, then this person is bad and terrible. No, they can just give you a hint or a clue in a direction. And if you desire to know, you shall go. So there's a popular Confucius saying, when a wise man points at the moon, the fool examines the finger. And that's wild. Yeah. You're like, oh my goodness, look how wrinkly your finger looks. There's a little crooked at the end. I can't believe it. You're not seeing what you're supposed to be seeing because you're consumed with the individual. And this is the case in Nat Turner. So right about now, I'm going to read for you the Confessions of Nat Turner. And I know some people be like, okay, we read it. Well, why is Emunah always about reading? Hopefully after this year, those who have subscribed has building up enough tolerance, enough patience to not be dissuaded. Sometimes when we see 20, 30 pages, we're like, man, forget that. I ain't reading it. Summarized for me. That is the problem. Therein lies the problem. Because we always want the abridged version. And then when someone doesn't give us the full truth, because who then now is going to narrate to you the fullness of what you need to narrate for yourself, we have a problem. And so as my community service, I have lent my voice to the Left Project, and Most High blessed for another 2 months. I'm going to continue to do so. So again, this is the Confessions of Nat Turner, the leader of the late insurrection in Southampton, Virginia, as fully violent and voluntary made to Thomas R. Gray. This is the original. It was made into a pamphlet of which we're going to read, and the man sold over 50,000 copies. It goes on to say, in the prison where he was confined and acknowledged by him to be such when read before the court of Southampton, with the certificate under seal of the court convened at Jerusalem. It's funny, that's the name of the city in which he was tried and died, to my understanding, November the 5th, 1831, for a trial. Now, this is a picture All of these things is fun. They all scanned in. They're all accessible. Question, do you want it? This is at the Library of Congress. And this is one of the original copies of what I'm reading now that has been transcribed. You see all of that I just read? The confessions. This is one of the old school pamphlets here. Somebody's great somebody has one of these right now in their house. Somebody's great somebody knows the true story. And there's a lot of people who don't want the truth of the story to come out. Henceforth, deflection. So what I just read, see, this is somebody's pamphlet because they just wrote here in the margins, okay? Published, and it was published again. This one is 1832, so they kept printing it. If you would like this, it's right here for you. Here it goes. You see? People writing in the margin, District of Columbia. So I'm going to go ahead and read it over on the side where everything is cleaned up. This one is published in Baltimore. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share. Like I said, go ahead and buckle in for a minute because this is going to be a bit of a reading. I really don't have time for conjecture. You know what I mean? Life is too short. So, District of Columbia, to wit, be it remembered that on this 10th day of November, Anno Domini 1831, Thomas R. Gray of said district deposited in this office the title of a book, which is in the words as following: The Confessions of Nat Turner, the leader of the late insurrection in Southampton, Virginia, fully and voluntary made to Thomas R. Gray in the prison where he was confined, and acknowledged by him to be such when read before the court of Southampton, with the certificate under seal of the court convened at Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim, November the 5th, 1831, for his trial. Also, an authentic account of the whole insurrection with list of the white people who were murdered and of Negroes brought before the court of Southampton and their sentence, etc. Quote, end quote. The right whereof he claims as propriety in conformity with the Act of Congress entitled An Act to Amend the Several Acts Respecting Copyrights. So again, this dude goes to a clerk of the court and puts in that this book is, or this pamphlet that he puts together is true. And this is overseen by Edmund J. Lee, clerk of the district. And it goes on to say in testimony that the above is a true copy from the record of district court for the District of Columbia. One Edmund I, Lee, the clerk thereof, have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of my office this 10th day of November, 1831. Edmund J. Lee. Okay. Now, this is the note to the public. The note to the public. To the public. The late insurrection in Southampton has greatly excited the public mind and led to 1,000 idle, exaggerated, and mischievous reports. It is the first instance in our history of an open rebellion of the slaves, and attended which such atrocious circumstances of cruelty and destruction as could not fail to leave a deep impression, not only upon the minds of the community where this fearful tragedy was wrought, but throughout every portion of our country in which this population is to be found. Public curiosity has been on the stretch to understand the origin and progress of the dreadful conspiracy, because he had the people's minds boggled. The people were in fear. It says, and the motives which influences its diabolical actors. The insurgent slaves had all been destroyed or apprehended, tried, and executed, with the exception of the leader, without revealing anything at all satisfactory as to the motives which governed them. Like, they could not possibly understand why you Negroes rose up on us. I don't understand it. It says, or the means by which they expected to accomplish their object. Everything connected, and again, this is the J.R. Dude that's talking. It says everything connected with this sad affair was wrapped in mystery until Nat Turner, the leader of this ferocious band, whose name has resounded throughout our widely expanded or extended empire, was captured. This, quote, great bandit, end quote, was taken by a single individual in a cave near the residence of his late owner on Sunday, the 30th of October, without attempting to make the slightest resistance, and on the following day, safely lodged in the jail of the county. His captor was Benjamin Phipps, or Pips, armed with a shotgun well charged. Nate's only weapon was a small light sword, which he immediately surrendered and begged that his life might be spared. Since his confinement by permission of the jailer, I have had already access to him, and finding that he was willing to make a full and free confession of the origin, progress, and consummation of the insurrectory movement of the slaves in which he was the contriver and head, I determined, for the gratification of public curiosity, to commit his statements to writing and publish them with little or no variation from his words. So according to him, this is a deposition. He's writing what Nat Turner told him. Again, there's some historians who said he embellished, blah, 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 blah. But according to what they're saying, this is Nat Turner's words that's going to be coming up shortly. That this is faithful record of his confessions. The annexed certificate of the county clerk court of Southampton will attest. They certainly bear one stamp of truth and sincerity. He makes no attempt, as all the other insurgents who were examined did, to exculpate himself, but frankly acknowledges his full participation in all the guilt of the transaction. He was not only the contriver of this conspiracy, but gave the first blow towards its execution. For those who have just joined us, sisters, please stay on topic. This is Emunah Yisrael. I see we've dropped all the way down in viewership, so maybe people are busy or they don't want to hear the fullness. Either which way, if you do tune back in, I hope that you are able to hear what is going on, and like I said, have the patience to actually hear the story before it is we begin to say what it is and what it isn't. I'll continue. Where was I? It will thus appear that while everything upon the surface of society wore a calm and peaceful aspect, while not one note of preparation was heard to warn the devoted inhabitants of woe and death, a gloomy fanatic was revolving in the recess of his own dark, bewildered, and overwrought mind. You hear the language? Do you hear the coloration of this lawyer's thoughts towards someone who can mindlessly, in his estimation, murk people who did nothing, but in retaliation, they did the same thing. Before this point, they did the same thing. But when someone else does it, because of the abusive mindset of the abuser and that one in which he abuses, the abuser only has the right and the victim has no rights. So it says, schemes of indiscriminate massacre to the whites, schemes to fearfully execute as far as his fiendish band proceeded in their desolating march. No cry for mercy penetrating their flinty bosoms. Wow. No acts of remembering kindness made the least impression upon these remorseless murderers. Kindness, he says. Men, women, and children from hoary age to helpless infancy were involved in the same cruel fate. He sounds like he's telling somebody else's story. But when the tables were turned, now he feels empathy. Now he feels sadness. Now he wants an outcry. But you had the slavery, the institution of slavery, this peculiar institution. It had no heart of the young or the old. You understand? It threw everybody under the bus to a certain degree. It beat the old, it beat the young, it sold them away, it tore children from their bosoms. But again, this is what sent shockwaves through the nation. The turning of the tables. Never did a band of savages do their work of death more unsparingly. Apprehension for their own personal safety seems to have been the only principle of restraint in the whole course of their bloody proceedings. And it is not the least remarkable feature in the horrid transaction that a band actually actuated but by self-hellish purposes should have resisted so feebly when met by whites in arms. Desperation alone, one would think, might have led to greater efforts. More than 20 of them attacked Dr. Blunt's house on Tuesday morning, a little before daybreak, defended by 2 men and 3 boys. They led precipitate precipitately at the first fire, and their future plans of mischief were entirely disconcerted and broken up. Escaping thence, each individual sought their own safety either in concealment or by returning home, with the hopes that his participation might escape detection, and all were shot down in the course of a few days, or captured and brought to trial and punishment. Nat has survived all his followers, and the gallows were speedily closing his career, or closed his career. His own account of the conspiracy is submitted to the public without comment. And then he made some comments. Like he said he ain't comment, and then you saw some comments. His own account of the conspiracy is submitted to the public without comment. It reads an awful and is hoped as a useful lesson as to the operations of a mind like his, endeavoring to grapple with things beyond its reach, how it first became bewildered and confounded, and finally corrupted and led to the conception and perpetration of the most atrocious and heart-rending deeds. It is calculated also to demonstrate the policy of our laws in restraint of this class of our population, and to induce all those entrusted with their execution, as well as our citizens generally, to see that they are strictly and rigidly enforced. Each particular community should look to its own safety, whilst the general guardians of law keep a watchful eye over all. If Nat's statements can be relied on, the insurrection in this country was entirely local, and his designs confined but to a few, and these is in his immediate vicinity. It was not instigated by motives of revenge or sudden anger, but the result of long deliberation and a settled purpose of mind, the offspring of gloomy fanaticism, acting upon materials but too well prepared for such impressions. It will be long remembered in the annals of our country. This is the part I want to quote when I write an article on this. He says, it will be long remembered in the annals of our country, and many a mother, as she presses her infant darling to her breast, will shudder at the recollection of Nat Turner and his band of ferocious miscreants. I got to write an article on that part. I got to write an article on this. Believing the following narrative by removing doubt and conjecture from the public mind, which otherwise must have remained, would give general satisfaction. It is respectfully submitted to the public by their servant or observant servant, T.R. Gray, Jerusalem, Southampton, November the 5th, 1831. And it goes on to say, we, the undersigned members of the court, convened at Jerusalem on Saturday, the 5th day of November, 1831, for the trial of Nat, alias Nat Turner, a Negro slave late, the property of Putnam Moore, deceased, do hereby certify that confessions of Nat to Thomas R. Gray was read to him in our presence, and that Nat acknowledged the same to be full, free, and voluntary, and that furthermore, when called upon by presiding magistrate of the court to state if he had anything to say why sentence of death should not be passed upon him, replied he had nothing further than he had communicated to Mr. Gray, given under our hands and seals at Jerusalem this 5th day of November, 1831, signed by Jeremiah Cobb, Thomas Pretlow, James W. Parker, Carr Bowers, Samuel B. Hines, and Horace A. Brown. We like entertainment, but entertainment is not going to deal with the issues that you're still here, sis. Maybe I need to think my screen up. Entertainment is not going to deal with the issues that affect us. We have to have, and thank you for sticking with us, we have to have a level of resolve. We have to be able to stick through things and process information. Reading is very, very, very fundamental. But I'm going to go ahead and continue here. All of that, I've been on 29 minutes, and we just read through what they're saying is the authenticity of this confession. Okay, the movie, to my estimation in reading, and when you read now, when we read, it was sticking towards what was said. So there's people who want to see what's not possibly there. And further, go into this lifetime type series when the reality is it's telling a specific portion with it in this individual's history about what he, according to what they're saying, relayed to them. We have one more, I guess, witness here. State of Virginia, Southampton County, to wit, I, James Rochelle, clerk of the county court of Southampton in the state of Virginia, do hereby certify that Jeremiah Cobb, Thomas Pretlow, James W. Parker, Carl Bauer, Samuel B. Hines, and Oris A. Brown, Esquires, are acting justice of the peace in and for the county aforesaid, and were members of the court which convened at Jerusalem on Saturday. And it was a Shabbat. They killed them on a Shabbat. In Jerusalem, which is the name of the place, which is, I just find this stuff very interesting, that the 5th day of the November 1831, the trial of Nat alias Nat Turner, a Negro slave, late the property of Putnam Moore, deceased, who was tried and convicted as an insurgent in the late insurrection in the county of Southampton aforesaid, and that full faith and credit are due and ought to be given to their acts as justices of the peace aforesaid. In testimony whereof I hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the court aforesaid to be affixed this 5th day of November 1831, James Rochelle. So again, they're getting all these witnesses that's saying, yes, it's true, yes, it's true, yes, it's true. So it's worth reading, you know, I'll say that. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna drink a little water, and then I'm going to come back with, maybe it's on my side. Let me see, hold on. Yeah, maybe it is on my side here. Let me know if you can see my screen. Says confession. I said I was gonna get water, right? Here, let me get some water. 1 second. All right. We're gonna buckle in and get through this here, so that now we have more information to have this conversation intellectually. Confession. So this is what he's gonna say is Nat Turner's words. Agreeable to his own appointment on the evening he was committed to prison with permission of the jailer, I visited Nat on Tuesday, the 1st of November, when, without being questioned at all, he commenced his narrative in the following words. Sir, you've asked me to give a history of the motives. He's going to say he wasn't questioned, but then he has him starting off saying, you asked me. But anyway, you have asked me to give a history of the motives which induced me to undertake the late insurrection, as you call it. To do so, I must go back in the days of my infancy, even before I was born. I was 31 years of age the 2nd day of October last. So this month he's in jail. He just made 31. And born the property of Benjamin Turner of this county. In my childhood, a circumstance occurred which made an indelible impression on my mind and laid the groundwork of that enthusiasm which has terminated so fatally to many, both white and black, and for which I am about to atone at the gallows. It is here necessary to relate this circumstance, trifling as it may seem. It was the commencement of that belief which has grown with time, and even now, sir, in this dungeon, helpless and forsaken as I am, I cannot divest myself of. Being at play with other children when 3 or 4 years old, I was telling them something, which my mother, overhearing, said it had happened before I was born. I stuck to my story, however, and related something which went, in her opinion, to confirm it. Others, being called on, were greatly astonished, knowing that these things had happened, and caused them to say in my hearing, I surely would be a prophet, as the Lord had shown me things that had happened before my birth. And my father and mother strengthened me in this my impression, saying, Hold on, let me make it bigger. Strengthen me in this my impression, saying in my presence I was intended for some great purpose, which they had always thought for certain marks on my head and breast, a parcel of excrescences, which I believe are not at all uncommon, particularly among Negroes, as I have seen several with them, with the same. In this case, he has either cut them off or they have nearly disappeared. Those brackets are the dude it's talking. He says, my grandmother, who was very religious and to whom I was much attended, my master, who belonged to the church, and other religious persons who visited the house, and whom I often saw at prayers, noticing the singularity of my manners, I suppose, and my uncommon intelligence for a child, remarked I had too much sense to be raised, and if I was, I would never be of any service to anyone as a slave. Again, for those who are joining us, this is live. We're reading context. This is the confession of Nat Turner that was published in 1831 from a lawyer who is saying and has witnesses that he interviewed. This is Jailhouse Confessions. Okay. We'll continue. So this is purported to be source material. To a mind like mine, restless, inquisitive, and observant of everything that was passing, it is easy to suppose that religion was the subject to which it would be directed. And although this subject principally occupied my thoughts, there was nothing that I saw or heard of to which my attention was not directed. The manner in which I learned to read and write not only had great influence on my mind, as I acquired it with the most perfect ease, so much so that I have no recollection of whatever of learning the alphabet. But to the astonishment of the family one day, when a book was shown me to keep me from crying, I began spelling the names of different objects. This was a source of wonder to all in the neighborhood, particularly the blacks, and this learning was constantly improved at all opportunities. When I got large enough to go to work while employed, I was reflecting on many things that would present themselves to my imagination. And whenever the opportunity occurred of looking at a book, when the school children were getting their lessons, I would find many things that the fertility of my own imagination had depicted to me before. All my time, not devoted to my master's service, was spent either in prayer or in making experiments in casting different things in molds made of earth, in attempting to make paper, gunpowder, and many other experiments that, although I could not perfect, yet convinced me of its practicability if I had the means. It's an asterisk here. He says, when questioned as to the manner of manufacturing those different articles, he found well informed on the subject. So he was like, tell me more. And that, according to him, it was like, yo, this is how you do it. So I was not addicted to stealing in my youth, nor have ever been. Yet such was the confidence of the Negroes in the neighborhood, even at this early period of my life, in my superior judgment, that they would often carry me with them when they were going on any roguery. Roguery, son. You more than rogue, you be into roguery, to plan for them. So they had him as the mastermind. Although he didn't have an inclination to be a rogue, they brought him as the mastermind. Growing up among them with this confidence in my superior judgment, and when this is in their opinion was perfected by divine inspiration for the circumstances already alluded to me in my infancy, and which belief was ever afterward zealously inculcated by the austerity of my life and manners, which became the subject of remark by white and black. Having soon discovered to be great, I must appear so, and therefore studiously avoided mixing in society and wrapping myself in mystery, devoting my time to fasting and prayer. By this time, having arrived to man's estate and hearing the scriptures commented on at meetings, I was struck with a particular message which say, seek ye the kingdom of heaven and all things shall be added unto you. I reflected much on this passage and prayed daily for the light of this subject. As I was praying one day at my plow, the Spirit spoke to me saying, seek ye the kingdom of heaven and all things shall be added unto you. Question, what do you mean by the Spirit? Answer, the Spirit that spoke to the prophets in former days. And I was greatly astonished, and for 2 years pray continually whenever my duty would permit. And then again, I had the same revelation, which fully confirmed me in the impression that I was ordained for some great purpose in the hands of the Almighty. Several years rolled round, in which many events occurred to strengthen me in this my belief. At this time, I reverted in my mind to the remarks made of me in my childhood and the things that had been shown me. And as it had been said of me in my childhood by those by whom I had been taught to pray, both white and black, in whom I had the greatest confidence, that I had too much sense to be raised, and if I was, I would never be of any use to anyone as a slave. Now, finding I had arrived to man's estate and was a slave, and these revelations being made known to me, I began to direct my attention to this great object, to fulfill the purpose for which by this time I felt assured I was intended. Knowing the influence I had obtained over the minds of my fellow servants, not by means of conjuring and such like tricks, can I still be heard? I don't know if I can still be heard because the power is out.